You're going to start by holding the paper so that it flips open up and to the left. We're going to start with it all the way closed, taking notes on the outside here. Okay, you're going to start by holding the paper so that it flips open up and to the left. We're going to start with it all the way closed, taking notes on the outside here. So we're going to start by plotting polar coordinates. So polar coordinates are different from our normal XY coordinates. And instead of X and Y, we use R and theta, where R stands for the radius and theta stands for the angle. What we're going to write on this outside is probably not going to make sense until we start doing the inside, but hopefully when we do the next part of the notes, what we're writing out here is going to end up making better sense. So R tells you where to go, and if R is positive, you're going to go to the dot. If R is negative, you're going to go to the X. This will make better sense when we start doing more of the plotting and the naming. Theta tells you how you're going to get there. If theta is positive, you go up, which would be counterclockwise, and if theta is negative, you're going to go down, which is clockwise. Pause this until you've gotten a chance to write everything that you need to. So I've just flipped the cover up, and I'm going to take notes on these two before I open up the left flap. Alright, so when you're plotting, even though the ordered pairs are comma theta, and we're used to doing, like for x comma y, we would do the x first. So if it was 5 comma 2, we'd go to the right 5, and then we'd go up 2. With r comma theta, you actually use the theta first. You either go up or down, whatever the angle is, and then you count out the number of r circles that there are. And it's important that we label both sides of the points. I am going to take some more notes here later on, but not until we do some practice with the easier types of problems. So this is it for the top part, and then we're going to draw some pictures down below, which are polar graphs. So polar graphs look different than the X and Y. It's not rectangular anymore with the different axes and things. We still have what looks like the XY axes, but they're not that anymore, and now we have circles, which represent our radii. And so when you're doing these problems, I would strongly suggest use multiple different colors, because I'm going to do 4 graphs total on the left-hand side, and a couple on the right-hand one. So we're going to start by graphing 3 100 degrees. So all of our lines are still starting here. This is still our 0. Since the 100 is positive, I'm going to leave here and go up 100 degrees. So I'd be up here in quadrant 2, 10 degrees away from 90. Since R is 3, I'm going to go out 3 circles. So I'll go out to the 3rd circle, and it's 10 degrees away from 90 and 80 degrees away from 180. And that's what I mean by labeling both sides of the point. That's it. That's 3 comma 100. So if we're going to graph 4 comma 330, sorry that doesn't show up as well, but that says 4 comma 330. This means I'm going to go 330 degrees around. So that's going to be 90, 180, 270, all the way to here, so that I'm 30 degrees away from 360. If I'm 30 degrees away from 360, I'm closer to here than to here. And since the R is 4, I'm going to be on the 4th circle out. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the 4th circle out. And this is 30 away, which makes this 60 away from 270. So that's our first 2 points we're going to plot. Now, what's different about our next one is that now theta is negative. So that means instead of going counterclockwise, I'm going to leave 0 and go clockwise 220 degrees. So it's 90, 180, plus 40 more. And then since R is 2, I'm going to be on the 2nd circle out. So on the 2nd circle out, I'll put a dot, and we said this was 40 away, and that means this is 50 away. Remember, those always add up to 90 degrees. The last one we're going to plot here is 4 comma negative 135. Once again, I'm going to leave here going clockwise 135 degrees, and I'm going to be on the 4th circle out because R is 4. So that's 45 away here and 45 away here. So far, The one thing that these 4 examples have in common is that their r's are all positive. What we're going to see next is what to do when r is negative. So I've added this part to my notes up above. If r is negative, we put an x, we go through the pole, which is the origin, we go to the opposite quadrant. When we start doing the graph, hopefully this will make more sense. Again, pause until you're ready to see the graph. We're only going to graph 2 points on this polar graph. So -2, 150. So again, we look at the 150 first. I normally start here on the 0. Since it's 150, I'm going to go up 90 plus 60 more. So if I was graphing +2, I would be out here on the second quadrant. But the negative r tells me no, don't stay there. Go to the other side of the pole. So what that means is, instead of actually staying here 60 degrees away or 30 degrees away, so where I've drawn the x is where it would have been if it was +2. But the negative says no, go to the opposite quadrant. So this is quadrant 2. I want to go across, and I'm just going to use a dotted line to help myself stay kind of on track. I'm going to be on the second circle in quadrant 4. And notice I went through the pole, which is the origin. Now, in this particular picture, the 30 is closer to the x-axis. So in the opposite quadrant, the 30 will be over there, also closer to the x-axis. And the 60 is closer to the y-axis, so the 60 will be closer to the y-axis there. The x is not really my point, it's just helping me to plot my point, which is actually in quadrant 4. So we'll do another one of these. We're going to do -4, 30 degrees. So the 30 degrees would have put me up here in quadrant 1 on the 4th circle out. But the x, or the -4 tells me don't stay there. So I'm going to put an x where I would have been if it had been +4. I would have been 30 degrees away or 60 degrees away on the 4th circle out. But the negative says no, go across through the pole to the other side so that I'm 30 degrees away here and 60 degrees away here. Notice that once again, the 30 was closer here and it's going to stay closer here. It's not that it's always 30 closer, it just stays the same from side to side. All right, next up we're going to talk about naming. This is when you open up the left-hand thing and you have 2 pages side by side. All right, now we're going to name the point. Every point actually has 4 names, and you're going to give all 4 of them if you're given a picture like you've been given here. So I graphed a point, and I would say give all 4 names for this point. When you're looking at this, you're going to give 2 names based off of the dot. The positive name and the positive negative name. You're going to give 2 points based off of the x, which hasn't been plotted yet. The negative positive and the negative negative. And I would hit pause now until you've caught up with writing all of this before you listen to the rest of the explanation. Now, we can see that this point is on the second circle, which means r is going to be 2. Or -2 in the case of r being negative. If you remember on the outside of our notes, we wrote that r tells you where you're going. I'm going to the second circle. Theta tells me how I'm getting there. So for this time, I'm going to the dot because r is positive. And then this tells me how I'm going to get there. So with it being positive, I'm going to go up. So I'm going to leave here and go up, and I go up 60 degrees. So my first point is 2, 60. Then r is negative, so I need to leave here and go clockwise or down. So I'm going 90, 180, 270 plus 30. And so 270 plus 30 is -300 because I'm going in the negative direction. What's nice to notice is that if you ignore the signs, these two should always add up to 360. That's a nice way to check to see if you've done both points correctly. Then I don't have the x on the opposite quadrant, so I need to draw that in. So I'm going to go ahead and go through the pole to the opposite quadrant, which is 3. I'll label this part 30 and that part 60. So again, r tells me where I'm going. So when r is negative like this, it tells me go to the x. Theta still tells me how to get there. When theta is positive, I go up and around. So it's 90, 180 plus 60. So 180 plus 60 is 240 degrees. Then this tells me to go to the x because r is negative, but to go down or clockwise to get there. So 90 plus 30, which is negative 120. And again, if I ignore the signs, 240 plus 120 is 360. Every point has 4 names, and there'll always be a positive positive, a positive negative, which name the dot, a negative positive, and a negative negative, which name the x. This time I've started by giving us one of the 4 points. And so I'm just asking you to give the other 3 points or other 3 names for 2, negative 80. So before I start finding them, I just want to kind of organize what I'm going to do. I'll have 2 points that go to the dot, the positive positive, the positive negative, and 2 points that go to the x, the negative positive, and the negative negative. I could have r be as large as I wanted, but I generally only go up to 4 or 5 because at that point it just gets to be drawing a bunch of circles. Again, I do know my r right away, so I know the 2 and the negative 2. And this time I was given 2, negative 80, so I'm going to go ahead and fill in the pair that I was given right away. And the next thing I want to do is go ahead and graph that, which means I go to negative 80, which means I go down to quadrant 4, and I'm going to be at the second circle out because r is positive 2. So I'm 80 away here and 10 away here. And I'm going to go ahead and draw in the opposite side with the x and the 10 and the 80 also while I'm doing this. So now I want to give the positive positive name, which means I'm going up and around. So I'm doing 90, 180, 270 plus 10, which is 280. Double check, 280 plus 80 is 360. Now I'm going to go to the x because r is negative. First I'm going to go in a positive direction. So 90 plus 10 is 100. Then I'm going to do I'm going to go to the negative r, but I'm going to go down to get there. 90, 180 plus 80, which is negative 260. And again, if I ignore the negative, 100 plus 260 is 360. This is in section 8.1 in your book. There's 6 problems for homework, and there's some more videos in there to help you along. See what you can do with it. If you're totally stuck, we will go over this tomorrow in class. When you glue this into your notebook, glue it towards the top of the next page because we'll do a practice problem or 2 below the notes. You can name this plotting and naming polar coordinates.